Yes, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Only 7 minutes to the top of the hour of 10 a.m. Yes, the delay in starting this broadcast was partly intentional, just to allow our friends in Europe, wake up. And then also, we did start last night's podcast very early. Some of you missed it, but yeah, we're on here at around 10:40 p.m. and we discussed for about 30 minutes. In regards what our expectations were. We talked about Alexander Isak's, injury and things like that. Of course, AFCON 2025 was on the menu and things like that. So welcome back to yet another edition with me, Robert Kesakos. Last night, Fulham beat up against Nottingham Forest by 1-0. Raul Jimenez, there from the penalty spot. His goal was enough to ensure that Fulham won all 3 points against Nottingham Forest. Our own prediction on the channel had been a 1-all draw, but unfortunately, that was never manifested because Douglas Luiz decided to foul his opponent in the forbidden area before the referee Anthony Taylor on the night pointed to the spot. Last night, I thought referee Issa Sheikh from Senegal did well in that game between Egypt and Zimbabwe. I thought Zimbabwe were really a good team. I thought they were very organized, but eventually they capitulated. Eventually they collapsed. Eventually Egypt were able to tear their walls down. Apologies on that. Was just having our audios tested just to make sure everything does check out. As you know, the routine often is. Mohamed Salah to the rescue of the Pharaohs over Egypt there, while Omar Mamouche, two Premier League stars, are rising to the challenge to say we will carry our country forward. So Manchester City's Omar Mamouche did score to restore parity, while very late on in the 90th minute of the game, Mohamed Salah decided that it was that the points were not to be shared, that Egypt needed to win all 3 points. I thought, by the way, for those of you that were at part of the preamble of last evening when we did that short podcast, it lasted about 30 minutes. So if in case you missed it, please, you can go ahead and watch it. But I thought, like we said, that my expectation was that Egypt, as the most successful country in the history of the Africa Cup of Nations, having won it 7 times, having been the only country to win it back to back between 2006, 2008, and 2010, were going to be dominant in their performance. Well, it wasn't particularly the case, but nonetheless, they still came out on top. I won't say I was disappointed. I will simply say that Zimbabwe were really good, were really good, that they gave Egypt a run for their money. So really, Leah says, hi Leah, good morning to you. Where are you joining us from? What region, what part of the world are you joining us from? We've had friends from India, from as far as Pakistan, from Brazil, from the United States, from the UK, from South Africa, from West in Nigeria, from North in Morocco, from Spain. I mean, from all over the world. I do come to you live from Kampala, Uganda. So welcome to another broadcast on this beautiful morning. It's quite bright and sunny out there in as far as our weather is concerned in the Pearl of Africa. So, like I said, very beautiful performance there in that victory for Egypt against Zimbabwe. But like I said, I was really surprised with how good Zimbabwe was. Marvelous Nakamba, their former Aston Villa player, I think between 2019 and 2023, before going on loan to Luton Town, where he eventually signed permanently, where he's currently playing. I thought was really led his team really well. Zimbabwe were pretty well organized defensively. They defended their goal jealously. I thought it was beautiful to watch. It was beautiful to watch. And in a surprise turn of events, at least a surprise to me, they took the lead through Prince Dube in the 20th minute, a well-taken goal to beat the Egyptian goalkeeper there, Shanawi. I mean, it's not like the goal came against the run of play. It's that the goal came when you least expected it. Because basically, like most teams, when you come up against North African teams who we know that are very, very dominant, that they like to spread the ball around, they sort of play like the way you'd have a Spain play, be passive, penetrate you, break you down, wear you down, in that sort of sense. The way they went about it was we're going to sit back, be solid defensively, but we will also go forward every time we have the ball. And they ventured really, really well forward. And when it came to defending, they retreated back well. But again, and you can see that when both goals come for Omar Mamosh, the equalizer, that was in the 64th minute. It was a sort of a lapse in concentration, that delay in retreating back to defend their goal, that he runs in behind them to the near post to fire that ball into the roof of the net. To beat the Zimbabwe goalkeeper there, Arubi, who I thought had done well, really. And then when you come to the first minute of stoppage time, therefore, Mohamed Salah, again, he uses his body to shield off the defender and then, sort of literally passes the ball to the near post, again, to beat the goalkeeper. Arubi in goal. But overall, I thought there were some underperformers. The likes of Muhammad Trezeguet tried to, he tried to hoodwink the referee with a dive to try and get a penalty early on before the game was even 1-0, and he got himself booked. Ashore tried to had an attempt on goal. It did not materialize. I thought, by the way, if we're being honest, I didn't think that Egyptian defense was good enough. It felt shaky. Yes, overall, they defended fairly well. They cut out many of the threats, but from that midfield, the midfield was easily penetrated and they could get to that backline. And even that backline, a few, among times, they got in behind them. Now, like I said, on the ball, in terms of statistically, Egypt dominated, possession to the tune of 80%. So that tells you everything you need to know. They had as many as 32 shots, according to online statistics, and 11 of those were on target, compared to Zimbabwe 7 and 3 on target. So, but when it came to when it came to their midfield, for me, I thought every time for the little amount of possession that Zimbabwe had the ball, they really, really used it well, because they had 3 shots on target, and that tells you. And then there were those last-minute gossip sort of defenses from that Egyptian defense, where, they're trying to loop the ball over them, and then somebody nicks it very late on. I thought that made Zimbabwe look good on the day. Hello, I'm from Algeria. Rami there is joining us from Algeria. Hi, Rami. Welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. Give us your thoughts about Algeria going into this edition of AFCON. What are your chances? We know that Algeria, of course, won the competition back in 2019. So your game does come tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, against Sudan at 6 p.m. What are your chances? Do you feel positive? Do you feel encouraged? Do you feel confident that Algeria are going to go and upset possibly some of the favorites of the tournament in Morocco, who are the host nation, the likes of Egypt, who are the most successful on the continent, or will they fail to live to the expectations? Because ever since winning the 2019 edition, you felt that they've sort of gone a bit, more or less, a bit quiet in a way, for lack of a better word. I thought they've not lived to the billing, because in that final they beat up against They beat up against Senegal by goal to nil. That edition that was hosted in Egypt. Remember, it was supposed to be hosted in Cameroon. Then CAF, because of logistical challenges in delayed preparations for the tournament, CAF decided it be given to Egypt, and that's how we ended up playing it in Egypt. And then Cameroon ended up hosting the subsequent edition in 2021, which Senegal won, beating Egypt. 4-2 on post-match penalties that proceeded a goalless draw, for those of you that remember that edition. So Rami says, I think we will win, but not easily, maybe a 2-1. That's a Rami's submission. He thinks they will win their game against Sudan by 2-1. He says it won't be easy. I mean, Sudan has some really, really good players. Not that I have any of my fingertips, but overall, as a nation, they've always been, a very, very talented team when it comes to, competing at the highest of levels. We saw them play some good football at the African Nations Championships that were hosted by Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, not too far back. So they sort of have a good reputation in terms of their footballing prowesses. I think they're one of those countries that must have won this edition before. That was in 1970, yes, when they hosted it. They won it when they beat up against Ghana by 1-0 in the final. So you come up against a country that has a history, may not be that rich, but I mean, they too have won it before, and that was in 1970. Of course, Algeria are two-time champions of Africa. The other occasion being, was it 1990? No, yeah, in 1990 actually, not 92, because 92 was Ivory Coast. So really, Algeria do come with that reputation. So we wish you the best of luck in your game tomorrow. So that will be the case for Algeria. I thought we should accord Rami there a courtesy for him joining us on the channel on this beautiful morning. So anyways, so that's how the game finished at 2-1 in favor of Egypt. On the match, 3 points is all that will count. But that means for the two groups, for the two groups, we've had at least their match day one complete. We know the tournament opened up on Sunday with a 2-0 victory for Morocco against Comoros. Their beautiful game of football in which Morocco missed a penalty, Brahim Diaz and Ayoub El Kabi scoring the brilliant goals, El Kabi scoring a bicycle kick of a goal. Then we did witness a 1-1 draw between Zambia and Mali. Zambia getting a late equalizer through Patson Daka, a bit of a brilliant header in that one to cancel out Mali's goal. Must have been a painful result because Mali had done well, I think, to defend, almost to see it to the end, but in the second minute, I think, of stoppage time, that's when they conceded that header from Patson Daka to restore parity. In there, then we saw South Africa beat up against Angola by 2-1. Again, it was a bit of a 50-50 kind of game. South Africa, I thought, even though they created the better chances, were not as dominant as you'd expect their talent to match up. Lyle Foster scoring what turned out to be the winning goal in that game, while Owen Polish had scored to open the scoring for South Africa in the 21st minute, and then Shaw scored to restore parity for Angola. Angola, who I thought really competed well, they didn't give away too much. So those were the other results from the tournament as far as yesterday is concerned. And today, DRC Congo will be up against Benin at 3:30 p.m. I will be rooting for DRC Congo on that one, particularly because of Sebastian Desabre, the former Uganda Cranes gaffer at the helm of the DRC Congo national team, but also because they are our neighbors, and we have a good number of Congolese from in and, eastern part of DRC Congo and things like that. Then Senegal at 6 p.m. will be up against Botswana, and then Nigeria will take on Tanzania there, Moshmiwa, Tanzania there at 8:30 p.m. East African time. The Super Eagles, who have won the competition on 3 different occasions. I think the team that have lost the most finals, probably around 5. The last one, the competition back in 2013 when they beat up against Burkina Faso by 2 by goal to nil. Then they also won it, I think, in 1985. No, not 85, not 85. Oh, I'm trying to remember. What year was it? What year was it? What year was it? Nigeria. Other than 2013, it wasn't 85. It wasn't 85. But they've won it 3 times. I'm trying to recall the other years in which they won it, other than 2013. Yeah, in 1994, yes, 1994, they did win it as well. So, unfortunately for Nigeria, I don't have many good words to say about you guys. Nigeria also suffer the same problems that sometimes other teams suffer. Team finance is an issue. I do not know whether it's because people steal the money but usually players are always complaining they're not getting their worth. There's a day, Alex Iwobi was showing where a team was residing. The hotel wasn't the prettiest of hotels. They do have those problems for a country that has the biggest economy on the African continent and the largest population. They are without their problems, those yellow fright eaters. But yeah, the country that have the richest man, I think, or possibly on the continent, in Aliko Dangote, I think if one of the few things I like about Nigeria is their cost of gas. I mean, apparently, they're paying 1,800 Uganda shillings for a liter of petrol. Jesus Christ. That's almost 3 times what we are paying, here. Anyways, so we will not get into the depth of that. But yeah, Nigeria have a very, very strong squad. We know that. Victor Osimhen, Ademola Lookman, they're very decent side in terms of their talent. They have a plethora of talent. That has never, I do not think there's been any one point of time where you thought Nigeria were lightweight. Sometimes they just fail to deliver, I believe it's one of those countries that are overrated, by the way, in as far as the Africa Cup of Nations is concerned. That's my feeling, that sometimes, yeah, they are overrated. They are overrated, really. And they exaggerate their importance in the involvement of these tournaments. I saw a Nigerian fan who tried to ridicule Uganda, saying that Uganda did not have anything to offer, and that the tournament would have been better off with Ghana qualifying. Something I found derogatory. If he had made his argument in the sheer context that Ghana would make this competition better, I would be okay with that, because yeah, they are a good team, but they were not good enough to qualify for this edition, unfortunately. So albeit they managed to qualify for the World Cup, but they were not good enough to qualify for this edition of the Africa Cup of Nations, really. So, and Uganda are their own merit. So I do not think we deserve the ridicule that he was trying to send our way. But anyways, it is what it is. Whether he meant it for football banter, I just thought he took it, a little too far, And then in the late kickoff at 11 p.m., Tunisia will be up against Uganda. Tunisia are the 2004 champions of the Africa Cup of Nations. There, I remember, watching that game when they beat up against, Morocco by 2 goals to 1. I do not know, but my memory seem to recall a fixture by Cameroon, beating Cameroon by goal to nil, but that was Egypt winning it in 2008. They are the ones who beat Cameroon by goal to nil in the finals. But yeah, maybe they met at a different stage in that competition. But yeah, Tunisia won it by beating Morocco by 2 goals to 1 to win their first and only edition of the Africa Cup of Nations. So, Also, Morocco won it, of course, in 1976. They have it. So Tunisia have that pedigree coming into the game. Uganda have never won it. The best they've done is, I think, reached the final. That was in 1978. They beat Uganda by 2-0. And Uganda also played, I think, in 1974. They reached the semi-finals. That is when DRC Congo won it. At the time, they were still called Zaire. So Uganda's biggest showcase at the Africa Cup of Nations was reaching the finals in 1978. At the time, President Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada was still the man in charge of this country, a man who I think his international or global reputation was largely misrepresented. He wasn't an angel, but because so many things went wrong in his system or during his governance, but so many things that Uganda prides of itself today, or at least did for some time, was done by him. Was all done by him. He was a true patriot. If you wanted something, if you traveled anywhere around the world and admired something, his only question was, why don't we have that in Uganda? And he just could tell his people, get to it. I need that. He started the Uganda Airlines. Why? He went, bought some cows. He's asked, so how are you going to transport them? He's like, by air. So it's like, how much would it cost me? I think the cost was expensive. It's like, how much is the airplane? And then he just bought the airplane as well. And then, so initially it came as cargo plane, converted into passenger planes, and Uganda Airlines was born at the time. So he was a patriot. He did so many things for this country, even though his global reputation is one that is ruined. So yes, the other time Nigeria won it was in 1980. That's the year that I was looking for. It was not 1985, it was 1980. Yeah. So the most, of course, successful country, like I said, Egypt 7 times, Cameroon 5 times, Ghana 4 times, Nigeria 3 times, as well as Ivory Coast, who are the reigning champions. Then the rest of Algeria, DRC, Congo twice, and then all the others have only won it once. That's Zambia, Tunisia, Sudan, Senegal, South Africa, Ethiopia, Morocco, and Congo are really. So the rest of us, we've only made it to the finals and lost. That's the likes of Mali, Burkina Faso, Mali in 1972, Burkina Faso in 2013, Uganda in 78, Guinea, that is Guinea Conakry in 1976, and then Libya in 1982. In 1982, I think. And then I'm trying to recall Equatorial Guinea, did they make it to the final? I don't think so. They're only a host nation. Anyways, so that's what's up on that regard. So that's the wrap up. Okay. So Uganda's chances. I mean, we do have a good squad. Dennis Masinda Onyango with all his experience. Ismail Jamal Magola. I do not know what Paul Putty's team selection is going to look like. You and I are waiting for it. I won't be speculative, but expect to see players like Toby Sebic, Elioka Prodosi, Aziz Kayondo at our left back. Expect to see players like Khalid Aucho, players like Aaron Okelo, Rogers Mato, Malvin Lorenzo Uche up front. Those kinds of players. Expect to see them in Uganda's starting 11 today. Tunisia, like I said, Uganda do not have a lot of good history when it comes to meeting up against North African nations. They really, really, beat us very often, more often than not. So against Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, Algeria, those are countries we oftentimes struggle against, So I expect Uganda to be beaten by 2-1 or 3-1. But all I want is to see Uganda put a fighting, fight I remember at the 2019 edition of the Africa Cup of Nations when for the first time in as many years, we qualified out of the group stages and went to the round of 16 where we lost to Senegal by 0-0. I thought we played some really, really good football, including, I think, beating up against DRC Congo um, by 2-0. So I don't know how we're going to look against Tunisia. I just have to wait to watch the game. And we'll be here at night at 11 p.m. possibly, or I hope not before that, or even if it is slightly before that, I hope we'll be here to discuss that game, in as far as it is concerned. So, anyways, when the starting lineups are out and everything in that regard. Okay, away from that, quickly. Yesterday, there was a game in the Premier League. That was a game between Nottingham Forest and Fulham, and Fulham winning that game by 1-0. Like I told you, a penalty from Raul Jimenez was enough to give Fulham all the 3 points on the night. I mean, it was a game of few chances. It was a game of few Sanchez. Sorry, it was a game of few chances. Joachim Anderson, voted man of the match. When you can see Nottingham Forest had only 2 shots on target. Fulham had only 1. It was a bit of a 50-50. Not much to differentiate the two sides. And that one goal is what decided the game. And that's how Fulham won to move to 13th on the Premier League log with 23 points. Nottingham Forest, that means they are now only 5 points above relegation zone. So it is what it is. Monday Night Football, that was it. So that wrapped up match day 17. And on next will be match day 18. That games will kick off on Friday, the 26th of December. That is Boxing Day. Manchester United will be up at home against Newcastle. So that's what will be coming. And then, of course, subsequently the Saturday, and then other things will come. So anyways, away from that, quickly, today there is a game in the EFL Cup. That's a game between Arsenal and Crystal Palace at 11 p.m. That's the kickoff time for that game. I'd hoped this game would come much earlier. I did not want it to coincide with the kickoff for the Uganda Cranes, but I'll try as much as I can, if possible, provided I have power and internet to watch both games. But of course, the primary focus being on the Uganda Cranes. But yeah, Arsenal are going to be up against Crystal Palace in the other quarterfinal, which is the last quarterfinal of the EFL Cup. We know that all the other quarterfinals were played with Manchester City beating up against Brentford by 2-0. Chelsea beat up against Cardiff by 3-1. And then Newcastle beat up against Fulham by 2-1, all to advance to the semi-finals, where Chelsea are waiting for who will advance between Arsenal and Crystal Palace to know who they will be meeting at the semi-finals. Manchester City will be up against Newcastle. Remember, at the semi-final stage, it's a double-headed fixture. They play home and away, and whoever comes out on top is the one that advances to the finals at Wembley. Newcastle are the reigning champions, so they've already beaten Manchester City this season by 2-1 at St. James's Park. We'll wait for a very entertaining semi-final. Then, so in as far as today's fixture is concerned, I would expect Mikel Arteta to do some rotations. Defensively, I do not think he will make many rotations, given the kind of opponent he's going to be up against. It's a huge miss that they are without players like Ben White, who I thought would be very suitable for this kind of game, and then give Yuan Timber another bit of a rest. So I would expect Kepa Arrizabalaga to be in goal. I would expect William Saliba to be in defense alongside Pierre Hincap. I'd expect Mazlou Skelly to start at left back ahead of Ricardo Carafiori at right back, Yuan Timber. And then in midfield, my expectation would be that Christian Nogard starts in that midfield alongside Mikel Merino, alongside Ethan Nwaneri. Now, I'm not saying that because Crystal Palace is a lightweight opponent. No, it's far from that. But if you're not going to give these players a chance to start games in the EFL Cup, then possibly you will never give them a chance anywhere else, because I understand they are all important games, but you ought to trust that that team is equally good enough to go up against the likes of Adam Watton, Tariq Mitchell, Lakroski, McGay, Jean-Philippe Mateta, Eddie Nketiah, Jeremy Pino, and win you a game of football. So, and then I would expect to see players like Gabriel Martinelli start, Noni Madueke to the right, and Gabriel Jesus start a game of football in as long as forever. The last time these two sides met, I think Crystal Palace got beat by, was it 4, with Gabriel Jesus scoring a hat-trick in that fixture. I think it was in the EFL Cup last season. So, really, that's what you want to you want to see, those rotations. You want to see those rotations. So let's wait and see what they'll be able to offer. Arsenal have already beaten up against Crystal Palace this season by a goal to nil. That goal scored by Ebelechi Eze. Oh, speaking of Ebelechi Eze, given that he did not start that game against Everton, snap, I'd give him the game. I'd play Christian Nogard, Mikel Merino, and Ebelechi Eze. Unfortunately, Ethan Wanye will have to start with the bench. Oh, yeah, that should work, And then if you, depending on how the game goes, then you can introduce the Sakas, the Martin Odegaards, the Declan Rice, a Zobi Mendy, or Ethan Wanye, a Victor Yokeres, and things like that. So, Crystal Palace, for those of you that think will be less energetic because they've had a little bit of a congested fixture, having played last week on Thursday and played again over the weekend, losing their game over the weekend. Please do not be deceived. I understand they lost over the weekend by 4 goals to 1 against Leeds United. Terrible game for Crystal Palace. I did not expect that kind of scoreline. My expectation was that they were going to win by 2 goals to 1, because the team that featured by in that game was a very well-rested team, because in their game against KUPS in the UEFA Conference League on Thursday had been a totally different team. He made all the changes he could make. And so, particularly against Arsenal, I expect to see their elite team. Dean Henderson, Lakroski, Christian Richards, McKay, Adam Watton, Will Hughes, Nathan Elkleini, Tariq Mitchell. That's in the absence of Daniel Munoz, Eddie Nketiah, Jeremy Pino, Jean-Philippe Mateta. That's the kind of team that you'd expect. So, but in terms of Arsenal, I expect to see many, many changes from the team that beat up against Everton by goal to nil over the weekend. That penalty from Victor Yokeres in a game in which Arsenal missed a host of chances for the likes of Leandro Trossard. Martin Zubimendi hit the base of the upright. Bukayo Saka had a shot from close range, I think blocked, and so many other things in there, really. So expect that for me. We'll be here to wait and see how the teams are, set up and what they will look like. Otherwise, look forward to those fixtures from the Africa Cup of Nations, like we've enlisted them for you. I do not know what fixtures I'll be able to afford myself to watch, but at least I make sure that at least 2 games per day from, it's 4 games. So because of other, responsibilities, other work schedules, I can only afford to watch some and not every single game. So please do bear with me if I do not manage to watch all of them. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure doing this with you. Thank you so much, Tia. Thank you so much, Rami, from Algeria. It's been a pleasure doing this with you this beautiful, Tuesday morning. I want to take this note and wish you a blessed day. We'll meet next time. It's a bit of a festive season, so expect, some misses. If you do not see me around for any of our broadcasts, please understand, please bear in mind. Do not take heart. It's the festive season. It gets a bit busy. Schedules become harder, especially if you have any traveling to do, because there's a lot of traffic jam, then delays here and there. If you have a meeting, sometimes people late because of many reasons and things like that. But we'll be here at night once again, provided all factors are kept constant, to discuss once again everything to do with football. Also the January transfer window is around the corner, so expect us to start giving you some transfer gossip and rumors. In as far as some of your favorite teams are concerned, expect updates from the Africa Cup of Nations. What I ignored to tell you is because we discussed about this the other day, the sort of what was the sit-down strike among Uganda Cranes players in camp. From what we gather is that the move was a bit political. They want government to release money and things like that. I mean, those are things that I expected. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Stay blessed. Bye-bye for now.